On today, the panelists are Anderson Dekade, Glory Round Television. Anderson.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Anderson, nice to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
We also have Alambo Datonye of Creek FM 106.5.
Your Excellency, good afternoon.
Alambo, nice to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
We also have Elizabeth Tiweke, Ray Power 102.5.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
And Lishman.
Nice to see you.
Lishman on the Sedemoya, Rhythm FM 94.7.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Yeah, Lishman, nice to see you.
Pleasure. Your Excellency, my name is Preston Akpo.
I know you are Preston Akpo. And it's nice to see you again, too.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, I will take the first question. From the foregoing, the whole state is looking up to you for direction and guidance as leader of the party and leader of the state. Your Excellency, could you please kindly tell us in brief words what next we expect in the state politically?
Well, what next politically? Two things. We have local council elections coming, and then the transition in terms of the governorship elections that will be coming up later this year. I think those are the two political hot items. But first, let me use this opportunity once again to thank the good and wonderful people of Bayelsa. It's a pleasure and a great honor any day to be of service to you, and I thank you all for the support and the encouragement and the prayers that I've received and continue to receive from all of you, women, men, youths, elders, I mean, across the board, everywhere. I want to thank you all for the encouragement. There's no doubt that while it is true that we've not solved all the problems of our state, I'm the first to say so. And it's also true that no one government, in 4 or 8 years, or even in a lifetime, can solve problems of a society. But there's no doubt that we have made very concerted and honest efforts. My tenure has impacted positively on a lot of areas in our state. And I want to assure our people that I will continue to mobilize my team, motivate and give direction and leadership to my team to continue working for our people till the very last day. In fact, I'll be going to work and doing my work up until 28th midnight. What I mean is 14th midnight. No, it's the 13th midnight of February next year. So for me, it's work, service, and more service to our people until the very last day. But having said that, yes, you talked about the political items now, the local council elections. I just came from a meeting of my appointees, that is the restoration team. I know very few of them are this way, that way, but mainly, and you would expect that. I mean, I have over 1,200, 1,300, 1,500 appointees, so it's no big deal if one or two moving this way and that way. And that's to be expected, and it's perfectly legitimate. But the bulk of my team is intact. The bulk of my team has shown a lot of, incredible discipline and commitment and loyalty and order. And that speaks to the new political culture that we have worked hard at great cost and in very difficult circumstances to enthrone in our state. If it were other times, by now, dynamites will be going off in Bayelsa. Rival groups, campaign teams will be attacking one another. But here, people are politicking. The social media is awash with aspirants and whatever, and they are moving around. And And that's the beauty. I mean, that speaks to the order and discipline and sanity that we have brought to the state. And these are some of the non-physical legacies that I expect the new leader that God and our people may give to us on the 14th of February to deepen, move away from a state of brigandage, a state of lawlessness, and a state of intolerance. You know, look at me, receiving people who fought me, who didn't support me last elections, to our party. You know, a number of them are contesting, and it is their right to so do. And I've just told all my people to receive and work with everybody who comes, because I intend to do so too. Very soon I'll be having formal interactions with as many. So the state is on course. The state is so much on course. Concerning the local council elections, I just told the restoration team, our team, that I thank them for the consultations that I directed should happen. And but I've made some observations. I have had incredible support from the women of this state, and also the youth. I've appointed so many of them into various positions of responsibility and trust for them to have experience and be involved. And I've told stakeholders that I desire to see more youths carried along so that we can expose them, more youths, more women. More women. I want to see a minimum of 20% of the councillorship positions given to women. And also, so many, a sizable percentage of the RD appointments that I will still make to be given to women. You see, because these are the women at the grassroots who are feeding families, who are, going through very difficult situations to make ends meet. And if, as a parting gift, a parting reason, I have to affect some of them in this way before I leave, as a way of showing gratitude to them, I will be very happy. So I directed further consultations. And I made it clear that the last consultation was to send me a list of a proposal for me and the party leadership to consider. So no one should be out there holding himself or herself as a councillorship candidate of my party or so. The primaries will hold, and it's at the primaries that candidates will emerge. But I've given that directive, and I will assemble the party leadership and the political team, and then the various local government and ward leaders over the next couple of days to harmonize the choices in accordance with the general directive that I've given. I will be delighted, as I've told them, to see more women, local, rural women residing in our communities who are party faithfuls, who are party activists, who continue to go out there receiving people. They don't go to farm, they don't go to market, they are out there all day waiting to receive us, encourage us, sing for us, dance and welcome us, and yet run their homes. Very supportive, loyal women. I'm not impressed with the number that I've seen that has come from the consultation. So I've announced a minimum of 20%. And I will see that that happens. And also the youths, these young boys who have continued to support me and my government. If I'm going somewhere, they will do 200, 300, 500, they will come and protect the place and hold hands around me. Because, you see, I'm aware that since 2015, I've been running government in a very hostile environment, where the federal forces have virtually hijacked and mismanaged the security, compromised state security. And yet I have to run a government. So everything I've done, building a party, developing one sector after the other in our state, managing to stabilize the polity, managing to keep law and order and stability is in spite of this subversion of the security of our state, where since 2015, under the APC-led federal government, APC leaders, the federal government has more or less outsourced the control of state security apparatus to non-state actors. And yet, our people have been very supportive and have been managing government now 8 months only to go. So I've given that directive. On the governorship that you talked about, yes, I've told my team now that before I travel, I said we're going to, all of us should consult and continue to pray. We are still in the prayer mood. I've actually directed the religious team to announce days of prayer and fasting for the state. And they have told me they will get some dates this June. So I encourage all of you, even those who will not be able to attend, to pray for our state, pray for God's direction, and for God to take over the transition activities, because the stakes are so high. The stakes are so high for this state in terms of continuation of the critical policies that affect the lives, the destinies of our people, on education, on healthcare, on infrastructure, on the reforms, on changing the mindset of our people, on building a stable state where people are not molested. For 8 years, there has been no report of me or my team attacking anybody. There are no dynamites going off anywhere. There's no unwarranted assault or harassment of anybody. Everybody is at liberty, is free to agree or disagree as you please. We want that to continue. We don't want cult elements to take over our state again. And I told our team that the APC is not a political party. I've always said that. APC is not a political party. In Bayelsa, it is a criminal organization. It is, as a matter of fact, Vikings confraternity. That is the APC in Bayelsa. And the two Viking leaders are quarreling, and we hope that in their quest to take over their party, which can never win a governorship election any day, they do not further endanger the security of our people on the streets. You know what happened during their last governorship primaries. And one of them who was chased out is now in our midst, and I've received him and given him refuge. So we have built an attractive party. I welcome all of them that are there. All the aspirants in the PDP that I've seen so far are far better. than these Vikings, chieftains, and Kapoons that now that the APC will parade. But you know that comes with its own challenges, because they will bring soldiers, they will bring the police, this is the 15th commissioner of police that we have now. And they want a police commissioner, they want police officers who will do the bidding of Vikings members and cult members in our state. And I have, in spite of the lack of federal support, I've managed to keep our people safe and to keep our state the way it is. Our state is on course, respected, the Committee of States, and would like to keep it going so. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, there is a post on Facebook that you appointed former President Goodluck Jonathan as your special advisor on education. Could you please clarify this?
Well, let me use this opportunity to thank all our leaders, all our people who turned out en masse to encourage me, to encourage the state. A couple of days ago when we had our launching of the State Education Development Trust Fund. And I want to particularly thank our donors, our partners who came, those who made pledges and donations, and specifically and especially thank former President Jonathan, who came as a special guest. I invited him to come as a special guest I know his passion for education. I mean, and you people know me. I say things as they are. So very passionate man when it comes to education. And in my speech, I talked about his own plans for our state, and I was a part of that government myself. I was Attorney General, so I knew what his plans for education and what he started, that scholarship program that he did for the very young people. I came and redoubled it. But it was a compliment to him. It was a compliment to him and a recognition of the role he has in supporting and encouraging what is good in our state. And I know he's willing to support and encourage in any way possible. And I'm thankful to him, not just for coming, thankful to him for his kind words of support and encouragement, and also for accepting. Because I whispered to him that the state would like him to use his goodwill, massive goodwill, to attract support to us. And of course, he wasted no time. He said, yeah, he will do that. He will do that. I'm grateful to him. But beyond that, because of the kind of stories you press people always bandy around, let me say that that event should have shown to most people that there's no problem between us. Former President Jonathan is my elder brother and my leader, and will continue to receive his due respect, you know. And so two of us, we know what we do quietly. We know what we do quietly. And let me even put you people on notice that even in this transition, there's one person that will sit down with me, that I will sit down with, is former President Jonathan. And when I'm ready, after all these prayers and so on, I will visit him. He's the elder. And we will compare notes. We will compare notes. I have the direct responsibility of administering and managing the state, but I believe I have his support. I have his support. Sometimes, you know, from aides and people around, people get a lot of wrong signals out. And we can't abandon everything else we are doing. I'm very busy. He's also a very busy person, traveling around the world as a statesman. We can't be addressing press every day that, oh, there's no problem, because that itself will mean there's a problem. But events like what you saw shows that we are united when it comes to what is good for our state, what is best for our people. And I know him. I mean, there's no political relationship that has lasted longer than the relationship two of us have, with him being the leader. So we are very mindful of that. These are very trying times, and managing a transition in a developing, volatile democracy can be very troublesome. And it's refreshing when you know you have people around that can make their inputs and counsel and advice. But the bottom line remains that I'm in charge as governor. And there has been no interference. There's no, but it's refreshing to know that we have elders around, he being one, the foremost one. And so we're going to consult. I was talking about consultation. I'm not just going to be with him. When I finish, there are so many people I will sit down with and rub minds with. So there's no issue, but I know that from aides, from people around, from careless statements people may make, and for some people, maybe sometimes expectations that are unreasonable for some people. Then they will now go and manipulate stories and take advantage of the proximity they have But essentially, between myself and former President, and I think the state will see that as we move on course, as we move together.
Your Excellency, I want to still take you on that governorship issue. Now, maybe we would like to have details. How will the next governor emerge, and will your party, the PDP, adopt the principle of zoning for the November 16 governorship election in the state?
Well, look, you know that I'm I have some experience in this game. Huh? I have some experience in this game. So don't worry, we're handling everything, and everything will fall into place. The outcome of the prayers and the consultation will address all of these concerns. But what is comforting is that there is no candidate from the APC that myself leading the restoration team and the party and the former president on his own side giving support that can defeat us in this state. None. I've not seen any candidate in APC. None. I've just told you the APC is Vikings confraternity in Bayelsa. And I know Bayelsa, I know the John Nation enough to know that none of these characters that are parading themselves as likely candidates will pose an issue. The only problem is they won't be able to win any election. Even in their communities, they can't win an election. In their local government, they can't win an election. The only problem is they will deploy violence because that's their trademark. And the federal security agencies will, as usual, come and swoop on Bayelsa and try to hold us hostage and do what they did. They tried in 2015 and leading this party, even at the time that APC was so popular, we defeated them. They could only manage by violence to win one local government. And even that one, the real votes, when we analyze them, when the real votes we won, brass. You know, so that's it. They couldn't win any other local government. And this one will be like that. There was no election in Nembe Basamri last time. You all know. Our candidates, senatorial candidate, won Ogbea. Our senatorial candidate won even in Ogbolomabri, where we had another candidate in ADC. Our candidate won in Brass. If they had been voting in Basambri, we would have defeated them outright. That's why they know. That's why they shot. Up till now, we are the only state in this country where people were pushed out during primaries, during the last elections. And all these days, weeks and months after, we still have IDPs. We still have over 3,000 IDPs who cannot access their communities. And you have the military people there in Basambri enforcing that unlawful expulsion. And like I said, these are the issues I expect aspirants in PDP to talk about. But all I see them do is play establishment politics. Establishment politics. That's what they're all playing. None of them is talking about the propensity of the military to come and kill people in our elections, whoever the flag bearer may be. And I find that very distasteful. And for me, it shows that the number of people who are just saying they want to contest, is because, number one, I have led this party to retain the state for PDP, 2015. If I had lost that election, there would have been no PDP in Bayelsa for anybody to come to contest an election. And we have made the party attractive. We have delivered, and the people have confidence, more confidence. And above all else, my all-inclusive consensus-building spirit has enabled all of them to come in. But I expect them to know that these are unusual times. They are opposition politicians. They are not establishment people. And what I see them is just scheming. This one's scheming this one's going to scheme this. So sponsoring publications in newspapers. Those things don't win elections. Here, we must deal with the reality of the abuse of the federal might, federal powers during elections. and how to take care of the capacity of these cult leaders who are parading as APC leaders and possible candidates to inflict maximum violence on our people. None of them is talking about that. None of them is talking about the federal government and how they abuse powers. So I believe they change, and in my interactions with them, I will tell them. But I just see willing, dealing politicians going around, and I am an opposition politician, and you've heard my voice on every issue. That's the way it should be. They expect me to do it for them. They expect me to do it for them. I expect them to now talk about why people are in IDP camps in Basambri. I expect them to talk about why people cannot go into Paramabri to vote or even to live their normal lives, and question the terrible things that the security forces are doing here in this state. I have only 8 months to go, and I've held this state, the Jerusalem of the John nation. I've protected it from being taken over and overrun by all these elements that no one knows what they are loyal to, who they are loyal to. So, but all those people who say they want to be governor on PDP to contest general election, I expect them to take on these issues, but they are not. Maybe they will, but I will continue to, in my interactions with them, discuss with them. Because you see, people must know the reality that we are in opposition. We don't have the center. We don't have the center. And as I reminded my appointees, the restoration government is 80% of PDP in Bayelsa. In every state where you have a governor with a team, that is essentially the party. That's essentially the party. So I've encouraged them to be together. I've encouraged them to respect everybody. And we need more prayers and more consultations. So as we move forward, as a product of the consultation and the prayers, I believe that will throw up acceptable names that people can look at. Names that, of course, I am also entitled to support somebody of my own. This is politics, you know. So everybody is entitled to support somebody. I, who has led the party to these brutal battles, and in most cases seen supporters paying supreme price for it. You saw how they did what they did, and I came out roaring. They wanted to take over all House Assembly seats. Came out roaring, going to radio stations. I was on the ballot in almost every election. People don't know. So, and that's what you need in opposition. That's what you need. We're not in normal, regular times where people come and do wheeler-dealer politics, scheming this way, blackmail this way, set people up this way. That does not get you elected. This one is hard work. By the sweat of thy brows shall you eat. Yes, we are in opposition. By the sweat of our brows shall we survive. And I want to see more grit. I want to see more grit and a vision. But having said that, even the ones that I've seen, I've heard about, I know that any one of them is better than the criminals on the other side. I just want them to live up to the reality that we are in opposition. But in the end, through our prayers and extensive consultation, and you know I'm a consensus builder. That's my forte. I'm a team player. I build teams and I build consensus. No ego, no arrogance. Bring myself to the level of everybody. Till midnight, I serve our people in my village. If I'm here, the same thing. So I know this state in ways and in manners that not many politicians know their people the way I know my people. Up to the communities. I know the players. So I want to tell people to take it easy. Just continue in our ways, be together through our prayers and consultations. the right decisions will be taken, including the one you are alluding to, i.e. zoning. When we finish our consultations and prayers, a number of these issues will naturally take care of themselves, because we will want to win elections. Okay.
Your Excellency, still talking about the elections, the Bayelsa State Independent Electoral Commission announced a shift in the date of the local government's elections to August 10th now. How prepared is Bayelsa State to conduct this election for the local governments?
How prepared is
the state for this election?
Well, when you say the state, we have so many political parties. Talking of preparedness as a state, well, maybe in terms of funding.
Funding,
yeah, funding is very difficult. That's one of the reasons we've not been able to do council elections. But I think we'll try to raise money, even if we have to borrow, to enable them properly constitute the councils, because of the new wave of nationally, in terms of a desire to see properly constituted councils, where people are talking of autonomy of councils and so on. And the Constitution says local government systems should be by people who are democratically elected. So it's one of the legacies I would like to leave behind. But it's costly, very costly. I've told them to reduce their budget. I have told them, and I believe they have taken that seriously. It has to be at the barest possible cost, particularly at a time that our revenues are going down every month, and at a time that we're also preparing for general elections. So, but what has got to be done has got to be done. And so the state will give support. My party, you know, this is the only party that can win elections in this state. PDP, that's the only party that can win elections any day. And this one, local government elections, well, part of the reason I said we should do it now is I want us to show to the world that these guys have no bloody presence. Those who are carrying fake return certificates of return, fraudulently obtained, are on their own. Anybody announcing himself as a senator representing Bayelsa East knows that didn't win a valid election. Anyone announcing himself as a member representing Nimbe Brass Federal knows that they never won an election. And same for Southern Niger Federal, knows that they never won an election. It's only in a failing state like Nigeria that this kind of brigandage can happen in the name and in the likeness of an election. And that's what I want our aspirants to continue to highlight. So I wanted to show that these guys are nowhere, but I want their candidates. I want to see their candidates. And then when we overrun them again, it will be a wonderful prelude in terms of momentum. So if they are listening out there, this is a challenge. I want to see their candidates. In this election where our state Seriake will conduct, I want them to come and show their face. Let's see them. But my party is ready, I know that, and will support the Seriake.
Recently, you were just appointed as the PDP Governors Forum. What is your comment on the state of the nation?
Well, the state of the nation is very clear to everybody. Whether there is a lot of hope, whether we live in a country of hope, whether we live in a country of justice, whether we live in a country that is united, whether we live in a country that has a government in place that is ready to rise up to the challenges of our country, these are all very well known. I have spoken out on all the issues that I think are important. For example, on how we should safeguard the judiciary, safeguard it from being a partisan arm of the government or of any party in power. And that was what I think that what happened to Justice Onoge showed. And at great cost. You see, these are the price we must pay for being in opposition. And so I have no room for lily-livered, timid, scheming politicians in a ruling party, in an opposition party. My voice has been very clear on all those issues. And apart from that, the governor of this state, the only state of the John nation, the governor of this state must not fail to speak up. So part of what I look at is courage to defend and speak up for our people. So anyway, back to your question. My comments on the state of Nigeria is very well known. We now live in a nation where life is both short and brutish. A nation where leading statesmen who have seen it all are beginning to doubt their identities and beginning to doubt the national project. These are very, very depressing times. To be in a state as a governor where you know your citizens are driven out from their ancestral homes like in Nembe Basambri, and the security forces are playing politics. And there are people like the case of Tripri Silva, who himself says is related to Basambri. Is busy exporting terrorism, planting the seeds of terrorism in his own ancestral place. He did the same in Okpoma, and the security people looked on and aided and abetted. And even when they nearly kidnapped and nearly slaughtered a deputy commissioner of police. We've not seen what they have done with it. So the security has been outsourced to criminals in Bayelsa, and I've been fighting to restore order, to run a government, and to do. So it's a very interesting time to be in Nigeria, and to be a Nigerian governor at this time. I have a lot to talk about, a lot to teach people, a lot to write about when I finish my tenure. So these are very interesting times, and only God can save and help Nigeria. We should all pray for our country. Thank you.
Your Excellency, still on the issue of security, I'm quite certain that as the Chief Security Officer, you must be aware of the upsurge in kidnappings along the Bayelsa Rivers axis of the East-West Road. Now, in view of that fact, Your Excellency, are there plans by the federal, Rivers, and Bayelsa state governments to explore a collaborative approach, possibly, to tackle insecurity on the East-West Road in view of the heightening level of insecurity on that major highway?
Well, look, one of our colleagues, a former chairman of our governors forum and governor of Zamfara, and several other governors spoke out, and they have spoken out several times, saying that they are not chief security officers of their states. No governor is a chief security officer of his state in actual fact, under this government, under the APC-led federal government. Not even the APC governors, some of them. For me, since 2015, all the security efforts we have made are without federal support, are in spite of the subversion of our security architecture by opposition politicians with criminal background and criminal records and in Abuja, working to undermine us. Take, for example, Doakbo. There's nobody in this state that will say Doakbo harassed and intimidated anybody. I don't even know who they apprehend. I don't get to even see, I'm not interested. There's no police commissioner that comes to Bayelsa that I say, go and get so-so person arrested or carry out any illegal. I don't give any political or unlawful instruction. I don't use security for politics. I'm capable of playing my politics on ground. You know, but since 2015, Silva and Lokbobri feel that the only politics they can play is to take over the security architecture of our state, They sit down and replace commissioners of police. They sit down and send directors of SSS who are politicians, hiding under the cover of SSS operatives to do partisan work for them. That's what they do. They even extend it to the military. If any military commander does not do their bidding, if you don't go and kill people for them, harass people for them, they blackmail you. They recently blackmailed and transferred a brigade commander here. These people have dismissed, they have caused the termination of so many young careers. And they don't care, they're heartless. They don't care. So, when you talk of chief security officer to, when the director of SSS here is the chief coordinator of APC violence, is the guy who coordinated the killings of those two people in Southern Niger. And I've written to inform his director general that maybe the first time a director will be put on trial will be from Bayelsa. So there has been so much subversion of the security architecture of our state. If not that this state has someone like me, in all modesty, these guys would have overrun this state from 2015 till now. These are Viking Capoons who in all their politics is associated with violence and killing and brigandage, and they don't care. Some of them with all members of their families, they are in it together. They don't care if 100, 200 people are killed for them to achieve a purpose. And you all know their records. Look at what they did to the Deputy Commissioner, Adi and Kujo and all those people. What has happened to them? So, we should pray, and this is why I'm looking at, for me, I'm looking at courage, I'm looking at strength, I'm looking at grit. Grit. Not scheming, not this, no. Because any one of these people can overrun this state with a federal government that does not care. Federal government that is not in control, that federal government that doesn't care what happens. And you don't sometimes even know who is in control. They just talk to the Minister of Defense, talk to IG, talk to this, talk to that, and compromise state security and make our states. So, but we are trying. We have been trying under my leadership, and there are some elements of the security forces that are also very patriotic and professional. And our people are also behind us. So I'm concerned about the upsurge in cases of kidnapping. And I'm not surprised, because when you arm young people during elections, when you create an impression that they can commit crimes and get away, when the law is not enforced, when law enforcement officers are compromised and intimidated and blackmailed and punished for doing what is right, then the result is what you see. And what you see is what you get. So, for me, the APC leaders should take responsibility for the upsurge in the increase in violent crimes, because that's what they sowed. That's what they sowed. But having said that, we are doing all that we can, using influence, using our other systems to support the professional few in the security services to ensure that law and order is brought to bear. Like what is happening on the East-West Road is very condemnable, and it affects us a lot in Bayelsa, because it's most of our people who ply that road. So it's very serious. I don't know any governor who is in control of security in the South-South. I mean, everybody is undermined, to the best of my knowledge. Some may be more undermined than others. Some of the APC players are less ruthless than others. But it is only a question of degree. Subversion, general subversion of the security of our states. Here, because of the robustness of our systems, the subversion doesn't show much in normal times, except during elections. But I'm very concerned about the cases of kidnapping. Cases of kidnapping. And I want to use this opportunity to call on the young men who are into this nefarious act to stop it in their own interest. In this state, no matter how long it takes, if you kidnap someone, we will catch you. We'll catch you. There's so many convicts whose death warrants are on my table waiting to be signed. Anyhow you run, we will catch you. So if you are one of those holding that old woman or old man, please release them. Release them. And in good health. Those who kidnapped former Silva's nephew, uncle, an old man, Chief Adigio, I think, he even died in their custody. These young men are so careless, so heartless. Died in their custody. They have been convicted and sentenced to death. Sentenced to death. So people should be careful. No matter how, even if the people die in your custody, you kidnap a 90-something-year-old man from Ogbea now. Because I've been told that that's what has happened. We will get you. If that man dies or his wife dies, we will still catch you. And you will pay the supreme price for it. If you go to the prisons, you have so many of them in Okaka. Violent criminals, all arrested. In this state, the systems we have set up, you may succeed in catching somebody, in kidnapping somebody, but we will get you. We will get you eventually. So I want to use this opportunity to call on all those young men who are into that to desist, allow all these other people to come out and see how you can be a useful member of our community. There are ways we can support and rehabilitate. We can talk about that, rehabilitate you, but this idea of kidnapping old men and old women and taking them to the forest to ask for money. Nobody has millions and millions to pay anybody for answer. And for me, you know, I have a policy of not paying. Even when my late mother was kidnapped, I never paid. And I went after the kidnappers, all of them. Only God knows where they are. So they kidnapped my younger sister. I went after them. So I encourage all those whose relations have been kidnapped. I know it's traumatic, but don't pay a dime. Don't pay a dime. Tell them you would rather use that money to bury them. Tell them. And we'll get them. We'll get them, and in deserving cases, I shall waste no time in signing the death warrant for their execution. And make sure they're executed there publicly for it to serve as a lesson. Well, thank you very much, Friston. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, my dear, good and wonderful people of Bayelsa. It's been a great honor, the greatest honor of my life, to have been of service to you all. You are all aware, working together, the difference and the impact that our service has made in our state. And it wouldn't have been without the inspiration and guidance of God Almighty, and with your support and your prayers too. So I must thank you all for it. We are now entering into a very, very important phase. That is the transition phase. And I solicit your prayers, I solicit your guidance, I solicit your advice. My doors are open. Reach me directly or through my aides and appointees and senior party leaders to let me know your thoughts. As I said a short while ago, I intend to embark on extensive consultations. I'm a consultative person. I don't take decisions and just on very sensitive matters. I consult a lot. I'm going to reach across to all strata of our society to know how you feel and how we should go, because it's important that we get it right in order to protect and safeguard the investments and the progress that we have made as a people in education, in healthcare. We're one of the best in the state, in the country, and we've got to keep it so. in tolerance, political tolerance, the new political culture that we have enthroned in the state has to be further deepened. We don't want characters, criminals who will become our leaders and then take us back to the era of throwing bombs and dynamites and showing intolerance and making Bayelsa to be the butt of all jokes in our country. Our state is very much respected now and stable, and we need to keep it so. So I call for support, call for prayers. For aspirants, what I tell people every day is that all political ambitions are legitimate. All political ambitions are legitimate, and it's only God that makes leaders. Men are only instruments, including me, only instruments of God's divine will. And so I urge you all to join me in praying and seeking the face and direction of God so that we get it right. But one thing I do know is that our state has no room for the APC. The ideology and philosophy of that party cannot grow here. And those few misguided elements who are there on that platform or any other platform, they are free to also do their politics, but without violence, without brigandage. And I call on the federal agencies to begin from now to do things aright. Do things aright, safeguard and protect our communities and our people, law-abiding, innocent people who will be called out on the 16th of November to cast their vote for a leader of their choice. My duty is to try our best to see that we support what is in the best interest of our people. I thank all of you particularly for the support, the massive support and show of goodwill displayed, and the spirit of one Bayelsa that was displayed on that day last week when we launched the Education Trust Fund. There will be many more such programs, another one on health care, and so many other things that we'll be doing. And you know, I was not surprised that none of these characters on the APC was there, even at a state function that is meant for the protection of the future of our children. And I'm not surprised. But all in all, I thank you all. Keep the peace. Keep the peace. We're managing a lot of challenging circumstances. But even at that, wherever, don't take the laws into your hands. Don't take the laws into your hands. Channel your grievances through the relevant authorities and try as much as possible to notify and work with the security agencies and work with my team, especially the security team, so that we can at least bring the weight of our influence to bear the fact that the right thing is done. Thank you very much, and may God bless Bayelsa.